This is the top.
Glad you're happy for me. Is there any Cambodia?
Yeah, it's pretty bloody actual.
Public Seaside Radio. Believe it or not, I'm at the top of Spurn Lighthouse with Andrew Gibson, who works for the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. What do you do down here, Andrew?
Principally, we're looking after the piece of land. Now, when you say looking after, that can take many, many different forms, but it's enabling Spurn to be as natural as possible and yet allow us as people to use it and enjoy it. I think that probably sums it up. And you know, you'll hear said that we're protecting it, and then you'll hear other people say, but it's washing away. Now, protecting Spurn is about allowing it to move. So it's not, as you think, like an antique, which you put in a glass case and keep it where it is. Protecting Spurn is allowing that movement to take place.
And it is constantly on the move here, isn't it? We've got the Humber on one side and the sea on the other.
Yep. As you look at me, to my right is the North Sea, to my left is the Humber, and the peninsula slowly moves westward, which is into the Humber. So you've got a geological movement, not like we think, slowly.
From up here, you can see just how narrow it is in places.
You know, the tide washes over on the what we call spring tides. So every full moon is your tide has a cycle, full moon and new moon. So once a fortnight, springs and neaps.
Right.
And you get your big tides, which are your springs, and your small tides, which are your neaps. And your springs, come September, we may well wash over at the narrowest point, which is about a mile and a half to the north of where we stood. And that will come from the North Sea side, go over the top into the river and move it westward slowly.
Right. What is there such a thing as a typical day for you down here?
No. Well, there is. Sun gets up in the morning, I come out, look at this fantastic place, and it gets dark on the night. That's your typical day.
Oh, right. And you get paid for the pleasure of this?
I get paid for the pleasure of that, yes.
There's quite a few bits of wildlife around here, particularly birds, isn't there?
Well, the birds use it as a migration flight line. So we don't have too many birds breeding here.
No.
But we do. Very, very popular with people coming to look at migrating and moving birds. So just to the north of here we have little terns breeding, which is probably Britain's rarest breeding seabird if you look at the scarcity in the world. And we have what's proved this year a very successful colony just north of Kilnsea. Now, a lot of effort's gone into making that a successful colony. It's been electric fenced, guarded with predator deterrents, people up there all the time, because we as people using the beach squeeze their breeding habitat so that they struggle to find suitable places. And that's one of the problems down on Spurn, is that people use these fantastic beaches and the birds just can't find a niche within that. So constantly we're looking at providing certainly little terns and ring plovers with that niche to breed in, but that's something for the future.
Yeah, but you don't want to keep the people away because they do bring in a certain amount of revenue for you here.
It's not just about revenue.
No.
It's about education, understanding, appreciation and enjoyment. The revenue keeps me here and my assistant, but it is about using this place for people's enjoyment. Conservation is a choice in this country.
Yes.
We don't have to do it.
No.
We choose to. We're genuinely an affluent nation who can afford to conserve. And we're a democratic nation and we've chose to comply with European legislation. This site is bound by some European legislation that Great Britain has bought into.
Yeah.
And that's what we maintain. That's our charitable aim, is our wildlife element, but it involves people and that acceptance of people.
Yes, and I suppose after all £3 a car is not an awful lot to come down to see all this and enjoy it.
No, not at all. If you was a Wildlife Trust member, you get on for nothing.
That's right.
So you can join the Wildlife Trust and you can come every day if you wish. Not every day is as nice as this.
Well, no, we're very lucky today. Having said that, it is a bit misty out there. I'd like to be able to see it a little bit further.
You can still see the horizon.
Yeah.
But no, it's on our doorstep. It's unique in England, possibly in Europe. And a lot of people do use it locally, and we encourage them to do that, as long as it doesn't impact upon what we as a charity want for the site, and that's about the wildlife, the movement, and the people enjoyment. If you just want to come and sit on that beach look at space, then feel free to do so, and join the trust for that alone.
It's well worth it. I see quite a few people and cars, but one thing I don't see here are any dogs.
No, that's one thing we are really, really keen on. Since the trust purchased it, because they own down to the low water mark, which is very unusual, they can actually enforce the no dog policy that they have on this site. And it's not done because we don't like dogs.
No.
We have an area to the north where people can go, they can exercise the dog, but down here we have this year-round policy. And from our studies on other reserves, 25% of people will take a dog to a nature reserve. Now we get 70,000 visitors a year.
Yes.
That's a lot of dogs.
That is an awful lot of dogs.
And because you can, on the beach, you could let your dog off today, and it's, you know, have a good run round, fantastic time. But if you're 4 and you're running about on that beach, and that little black Labrador runs up to you that's perfectly safe to an adult, and there's nothing wrong with the dog,
but
runs up at head height, all of a sudden your day's spoiled at 4.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is one of the few places you can't bring them, but there's lots of other places. Managing for conservation and accepting people work, live and relax within it, and trying to get some grazing back on the salt marsh on the north bank of the Humber. And, you know, very similar to here, we have the Wildlife Trust not only has Spurn, we have some salt marsh at Welwick, which is very close to here, and we have 100 acres of what we call arable reversion at Skefflin. An arable reversion is, it used to be a farm,
right,
and we've now set it back to grassland for conservation and for people to enjoy as recreation. So we have a local grazier on there from Rhizo.
Right.
He has his longhorn cattle.
Oh, he's got the long cattle down there.
He has, and you've seen some longhorn at the north end of here.
Down here today, it's so beautiful. It's school holidays, but there doesn't seem to be as many people as I'd expect there to be.
It's very hard judging it from being here and having exclusive access to this lighthouse.
Of course.
But as a quick look round, there's probably 30 odd cars on here looking up and down, and from our calculations of, you know, numbers of people, we average with the walkers about 5 per car. So you know,
it's probably enough.
There's 150 people on here, and yet it looks as if
it's empty.
It's empty, and that's good. That's what makes Spurn. It's a wilderness on our doorstep.
It is very special. There's no doubt about it.
And you're exploring. There's very few signs.
Very true.
The road's bumpy.
Very.
And you think, how are we going to make it? But the guys who live on the end, the Associated British Ports, myself, we drive it every day.
Right.
It's not a problem. It just makes you think, how are we going to get there? Is it safe? Of course it's safe. We won't let you down otherwise. But we've got to be sensible with it.
Right. But you can't see Spurn Point ever becoming an island.
No.
It's not going to be washed across.
It will be washed across.
But not cut off.
Not isolated and cut off as we think of an island. The last breach was in 1850s. I don't remember it. but
Something.
and that may have come about through a combination of circumstances. At that time, they were collecting sand and gravel off the beaches and cobble for ship ballast.
Yeah.
And the
destabilising it a bit.
the ballast. What was interesting is it went back into boats and back into the Arctic Circle as ballast for them to replace with whaling blubber. So the Ice Age brought the stone and gravel down, and we took it back. Now, how much that impacted on it, we don't know, but it does feel as though that had some influence on it.
Of course.
A lot of boreholes have been done on the peninsula in the last few years, and from the information in those boreholes, I and also the British Geological Survey do not feel that this will become an island. We may lose the road and the public access on the road, but the land will still divide the Humber and the North Sea. You can now hear people say, well, what about the ones who are on the end? There's ways and means to get people down there, but it may not be constant, easy public access that we have now. So we have contingency plans in place. We're constantly thinking about it. We have to work with the Associated British Ports, the Hour and the Light, they're the Wildlife Trust tenants here, and they are foremost in our thoughts on access.
Of course. And I want to thank you so much for letting me up here today. I can't believe I'm at the top of Spurn Lighthouse.
Well, there is the opportunity for everyone else who hears this to come up on the 10th and the 11th of September. We are doing an open days on the hour, every hour from 10 till 5 as part of an English heritage access to buildings that aren't normally open. And if you look on the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust website, or ring the office up or email them, you can book on for one of those trips to the top of Spurn Lighthouse. It will be free to get in. Obviously there'll be a collection bucket at the bottom.
Of course, yeah.
And you will have to pay to bring a car on. We can walk down, it's free. The choice is to book, because we're only doing 10 people on the hour, but we aren't going to have 8 booked and then 2 turn up and say no, but we will be strict with the 10, unfortunately. So
right, so go to the website, I'll put the link on here for everybody to see.
Right.
Thank you very much, Andrew, it's been fascinating.
No problem.